بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وحبيب رب العالمين صلى الله عليه وسلم. I ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions. Before we begin today, I'd like to review a matter that we all need to have in our minds all the time, because our goal is one goal. It was not up to us that we were born where we were, raised the way we were, and then ended up at the present moment where we are. If a person was raised to be a person of knowledge, and what I mean by that is a scholar, then there are certain conditions that need to be met for that child or that person to reach scholarship. Of course, it's not limited to a child, but if matters are prepared for a child, then it's easier for this child to later reach scholarship than it is for a person who starts late, after childhood and well into adulthood. The Prophet ﷺ classified people into different categories. He mentioned ﷺ that رب حامل فقه لا فقه عنده, or رب مبلغ لا فقه عنده. He said عليه الصلاة والسلام that many a conveyor, many a person who conveys, who acts as a vessel to transfer the religious knowledge from themselves to others, has no, literally, fiqh. Fiqh, here it refers to the deep understanding that is required, as well as the immense intelligence that is required, the capability to analyze, to bring bits of information together, consider them in different contexts, and so on. Some people, most people, they act as a vessel, they acquire the personal obligatory knowledge, or they hear hadiths, and they take the judgment from them that they are informed of. They are told this means such and such. And they themselves, religiously, and in terms of their intelligence also, they don't have the capacity to go a step further. One, because they weren't prepared for that, or because they weren't granted that by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So this vessel, this is a person who hears religious knowledge and implements it, but they are there. One of the purposes is for them to pass it on to somebody else, because they themselves, they will not reach scholarship, but they could pass it on to somebody else who may reach scholarship, and then benefit the Muslim community as a whole. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, فَرُبَّ مُبَلِّغٍ لَا فِقْهَ عِنْدَهُ. Many a muballigh, many a conveyor, has no fiqh, narrated by at-Tirmidhi and Ibn Hibban. This is part of a longer hadith in which the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, نضر الله امرأ سمع مقالتي فوعاها فأداها كما سمعها فرب مبلغ لا فقه عنده. He said, Allah will beautify the face of a person who hears the hadiths of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he memorizes them and then he passes them on just as he heard them. And the benefit of that is what he mentioned next, because many a conveyor does not have the capacity or the capability or was not prepared to be a scholar to extract judgments from those matters. Likewise, in another narration, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, رُبَّ مُبَلَّغٍ, so not muballigh now, muballigh, someone who it's conveyed to. He said, عليه الصلاة والسلام, وَرُبَّ مُبَلَّغٍ أَوْعَى مِنْ سَامِعٍ. Some people who have the information conveyed to them, they are more understanding, they are more comprehending than the one who initially heard it. So they would be, when this is passed on to them, so there may be a teacher passes on a hadith, the teacher memorizes the hadith. Like for example, I know some hadiths. I know on the surface that they mean such and such, and I don't know the details about the chains, I don't know the details about what other judgments can be extracted from it, but I pass it on. I heard it from trustworthy and reliable people. Somebody who's attending the lesson, they have been prepared, they have these capabilities, so they can extract, and this is at the level of a mujtahid now, or the level of a scholar, less than a mujtahid, who can who utilize the skills that they have, what Allah gave them, what they were prepared for, what the parents directed them towards or their teachers directed them towards, and they can do more with it. So it's not far-fetched for us in our community to have people in the future who reach the level of scholarship or get very, very close. But we need to collectively understand that this is a matter that is, firstly, it's achievable. And why would we want that? Because this is for the betterment of the community. And secondly, that the keys of this are in the hands, firstly, of the parents. This is the first thing. If they direct their child towards certain matters, like for example, at the very least, memorizing a part of or all of the Quran, as an example, then reading the books of hadith by chains of narration, to bring back some of these things that for some people they are either new or so they are alien to them, and these things are alien to the people. So they may seem very new, but this was the way of the people of the past. The books are the Quran, the books of hadith, and then to seek out people, to travel the world, to seek out people to hear from, and then to be well rooted in one of the four schools. Very, very well rooted, such that if a person leads the Jumu'ah prayer or they descend from the mimbar and so on, then people would seek them to ask them religious questions. This is not far-fetched. Yes, it was not within our control, let's say for us right now, that we were placed here. Here we are, in this country, where the religious knowledge that is available is not like the religious knowledge that is available elsewhere. But we make do. We have centers, we have lessons, we have review groups, we have. So those who want to prepare, firstly with the children, they want to prepare their children for that, then this is definitely achievable. And it's not down to the community to produce one person like this, one boy or man like this, but for the community to produce many men and women. So one has in their mind, I want this for my son, I want this for my daughter. For a lot of the time, people's daughters or women in this sense, they may be neglected because people say, well, we just want them to grow up, find a good household for them. They get married and then they raise children. Yes, but they will be the first teacher for many, insha'Allah, children. The mother is the first teacher. So this requires, it's because it's so neglected in our times by so many people that the mother, she will raise the child instinctively based upon what she thinks is right without perhaps even learning, even if she's learned the personal obligatory knowledge. There is more than that. Manners and etiquettes, sunnahs and recommendations, and dislike matters to stay away from. She is the one that plants the seed. So one should not think it far-fetched for a female to attain such a rank. So, like I said, the keys, first of all, are in the hands of the parents and also in the hands of those people who are facilitated, whom Allah has facilitated for those people, those youngsters to learn with. This is not all about the young though, because a person can reach a very high rank in knowledge, even if they do not become a scholar, even at an older age, even if they've gone past their 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. And the proof of that is that some of the companions, when they embraced al-Islam with the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, they were in their 60s or 70s. Some of them were old men, and some of them became scholars. Some of them spent maybe 10 years with the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, 13 or 14 years, and became mujtahids. We're not, obviously, none of us are saying that or encouraging people to give religious judgments based upon their own analysis of matters, their own connecting the dots. Or no, this is not like what Muhammad Abdo did maybe 100 years ago. Muhammad Abdo is an individual who destroyed Al-Azhar. Al-Azhar was a very strong Sunni institution. And then it was destroyed by at least two men initially, Muhammad Abdo and Jamaluddin al-Afghani. Muhammad Abdo, he wrote a very famous paper, like a dissertation, in which he detailed how students of Al-Azhar should be encouraged to do ijtihad, like mujtahids, wal-'iyadhu billah. They would study for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and then they would practically tell them, do ijtihad. What is your opinion? So from the days of Muhammad Abduh, al-Azhar has been in decline. And many people in al-Azhar, a lot of people in al-Azhar, they recognize that also. He had other problems as well. But so no one is saying that. No one is saying that one should give judgments without knowledge. But also, this does require God-given intelligence, God-given tawfiq, which is that Allah would create within a person to do the good deeds. And it's not just the means. A lot of it is to do with, fine, the knowledge and the content, that's one thing. Also, the behavior of a person. Some people, they have knowledge, but they are not trusted because of their behavior. They do things, they act in certain ways, such that they might commit a sin, and Allah forgives the sin, of course, if the person repents properly. But that leaves a trace, because we don't know if Allah Ta'ala has forgiven this person, has this person sincerely sought forgiveness. We do not know. So as humans, we take precaution. We say, oh, we can't have that person in that position as a religious teacher, for example, because of the way that they behave, or because they're arrogant, or because, so there are all these variables that need to be right. So a person constantly, as well as taking care of the means in terms of the content, one makes sure that this person has good company, good role models. Any bit of arrogance, defiance, and so on, or wanting to be famous or popular, all of that is wringed out of them. That's really important. Look at Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah, yes, we know about Ibn Taymiyyah, all of the different kufr things that he said, and all the scholars that judged him as a kafir on so many occasions. We know about that. We don't need to discuss that. If you read some of Ibn Taymiyyah's books without knowing they were Ibn Taymiyyah's books, you would be impressed. I can tell you that. We know, again, I repeat, he was a kafir. But you read some of his books and you think, oh, he came up with that. He categorized these matters in this way. He explained it in this way. Of course, and then Sunni scholars also explained it in that way. But then Ibn Taymiyyah, so he had some intelligence. But then it was pride that took over. And because he decided to read books by himself, that was part of his arrogance. So there are always these small matters. Well, they're not small, but there are always these matters that might go undetected. But it is very, very doable, especially at a time at which the Prophet ﷺ said that many of the scholars would die. Knowledge would be lifted because of the death of the scholars. Now, as the time gets closer and closer to the appearance of the Mahdi and the coming of al-Masih, Isa alayhi salam, is there not going to be a need for scholars? Times will get worse and worse until a certain point in time. Isn't it that everybody again will be a Muslim at a certain point in time whilst Prophet Isa alayhi salam is on the earth? Yes. So these things need to be put in place. The whole world, everybody on the earth will be a Muslim. Will there not be a need for scholars in this land and that land, in every land? Don't just think that because we're living in a non-Arab or non-Arabic speaking country, that means that one cannot reach a high rank both in piety or even scholarship or close to scholarship. Many of the scholars, they spoke as the first language, they spoke al-Farisiya, Persian. Many of them. Such that they started to mix it. How is it now that when people speak in Urdu, they also use many English words? It's become intertwined into the language. Like that became Farisi and al-Arabiyya. And they reached scholarship. Some of them, they became awliya and scholars. So that's important to remember. Okay. So continuing from where we had left off last week, we were speaking about the times that we're living in. And Shaykh Saamee al-QaaDee, حفظه, said that there is negligence in these times when it comes to the matters of the religion, and that the religious law is belittled openly. He said, وتصدر فيه من كثيرين ألفاظ تخرجهم عن الإسلام. That many people, what comes from them are words that evict them from al-Islam. ولا يرون ذلك ذنبا فضلا عن كونه كفرا. And they do not even see that as a sin, never mind it being kufr. So this statement here that Shaykh Saamee mentioned, it is one that is found in the Mukhtasar. وَلَا يَرَوْنَ ذَلِكَ ذَنْبًا فَضْلًا عَنْ كَوْنِهِ كُفْرًا. Shaykh Abdullaah mentioned that in the Mukhtasar, the original summary, in the Shafi'i school, and then it's to be found also in the other Mukhtasars in the other schools that Shaykh Abdullaah approved. This statement actually, Shaykh Abdullaah did not come up with it. He's not the first to mention it. It was mentioned in the original book from which the Mukhtasar was summarized, or rather, it was taken from the book that the Mukhtasar summarized, which was written some 100 years or more than 100 years ago by the Yemeni scholar, the descendant of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, Abdullah ibn Hussein ibn Tahir, al-Habib Abdullah ibn Hussein ibn Tahir al-Ba'alawi. In his book سلم التوفيق إلى محبة الله على التحقيق. So this is the book in which he wrote this statement about many people. They do things or say things that they don't even think to be sinful, when in actual fact it's not just sinful, it's kufr. It sends a person out of al-Islam. The exact same statement he mentioned maybe about 150 years ago when he authored his book. So Shaykh Saamee said that a person, they should know the reality of the situation, such that then they can exert effort and they can act based upon the reality that they know. He said, as for if a person did not know the reality, like an ostrich that hides its head in the ground, then this person will not know how to behave. He said, مصداق حديث الشيخين عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن العبد لا يتكلم بكلمة أو بالكلمة ما يتبين فيها يزل بها في النار أبعد مما بين المشرق والمغرب. He said, and the hadith of al-Bukhari and Muslim from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it supports this, that there are many people that say many things and they commit kufr by them and they don't even know that they don't even think it's sinful. And the hadith is that a slave may utter a word that he does not know it to be harmful. He mentions a word that he does not know the harm of. He does not know the extent of the harm that will reach him because of it. And as a result, he will slip, he will fall, he will slip into hellfire a distance further than what is between the east and the west. He will fall into the fire because of this statement that he made. And in another narration, the narration of at-Tirmidhi, this distance that he would fall was clarified, and that was 70 kharifa, 70 years. And in another narration, it's mentioned that the one that falls 70 years into hell, he will reach the bottom of hell. So this is a statement, and there are millions of statements that people say, and they do not know the extent of the danger that these statements will land them in. The result is that they land them in the bottom of hellfire. Shaykh Saamee said, كم من عارف فيه بأمر الدنيا خبير بطرق جمع المال وبسبل السيطرة على الناس. How many people there are who have knowledge of the matters of the world. Meaning there are many, so many, if you will, arifs, so many people that are arif, that are knowledgeable بأمر الدنيا. This introduction, this is still an introduction, we haven't even got to the rules yet, but this introduction, if you let it, if you concentrate on it and you think about it deeply, so from one lesson to the next, it really sets the stage really well. And these advices, these comments that Shaykh Saamee put down, they are taken from hadiths of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. He said, كم من عارف فيه بأمر الدنيا خبير بطرق جمع المال وبسبل السيطرة على الناس. And this, it directs us to the hadith of Ibn Hibban, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah disapproves of every arrogant and corrupt hoarder who shouts in the markets, is a corpse at night and a donkey during the day. He said, عالم بالدنيا جاهل بالآخرة. Knowledgeable about the worldly matters and ignorant about the hereafter. Shaykh Saamee said that such a person, he would be khabir, meaning he would show an expertise. Khabir بطرق جمع المال. He would know all about how to gather money, how to collect money for himself, for worldly things. And also, he would be like an expert at سبل السيطرة على الناس, how to subjugate or control people, how to behave with people, how to, what do they say, one up people, how to manipulate people. They would be experts at this. They are experts, Shaykh Saamee said, at playing with the minds of people. They manage people, they literally run people who don't have a clue. Then he mentioned something that happened a few years ago, because of which there were people had to stay in their houses and not go to work and so on. He said, this is an example. He said, look, even these people themselves, they gave certain conditions, rules, and so on. Then 6 or 7 months later, they said, no, those are now invalid. And they felt they had to change them. He said they played around with people. These are people who know the world. He said, such a person would know a lot about the world. وَجَاهِلٍ بِأَمْرِ الْآخِرَةِ لَا يَعْرِفُ الْفَرْقَ بَيْنَ الْإِيمَانِ وَالْكُفْرِ. This person would be ignorant about the matters of the hereafter, not knowing the difference between belief and disbelief. وَلَا يُمَيِّزُ بَيْنَ الْإِسْلَامِ وَالشِّرْكِ. And this person would not differentiate between al-Islam and shirk. And this is the case for many people. Many people who claim to be Muslims, they do not differentiate between these matters. But when it comes to worldly things, they will speak and they will speak and they will speak. Whether it's at family gatherings, or it's with friends, or it's with people on the bus, or it's and so on. It's posting things here and there and commenting on other people's videos, and they will say and say and say. And the stranger thing is also when it comes to matters that appear on the news, let's say, that are specific, there are specific religious judgments involved, where it's not down to a person's opinion. They'll jump on the bandwagon. This is some people. And other people who are not as confident, let's say, their case is the following case, who still, they don't have religious knowledge. Shaykh Saamee said, يَبْلُغُهُ كَلَامُ أَهْلِ الْبِدْعَةِ فَيَتْبَعُهُ. Such a person would hear the speech of the people of misguidance and go with it, because they don't have any ability to differentiate. They don't have anything to rely upon religiously. They didn't learn the rules. They didn't learn what invalidates or nullifies a person's Islam. They didn't learn that. So they don't know what's good and what's bad. Shaykh Saamee said, how would a person protect himself from that? How would a person differentiate? He said, does a person, just by drinking a cup of water, Become a scholar? No, it's not. That doesn't qualify a person to speak about religious matters. He does not become a scholar by that. Rather, he needs to learn the rules of the religion. He said, وَيَسْمَعُ أَلْفَاظَ أَهْلِ السَّفَاهَةِ فَيُقَلِّدُهُمْ لَا هُوَ عَالِمٌ وَلَا طَالِبُ عِلْمٍ. So he hears, such a person, hears the speech of lowly people, silly people, fools. He hears the speech of fools even if they have a PhD. Even if they've taught in this university or that university, or been invited to a conference in all the continents. Some of these people are still fools. He would hear, this person would hear the speech of some of the fools and then imitate them, being fooled by the glitter and the lights. Oh, this person has a PhD. لا هو عالم ولا طالب علم. Neither is this person who follows blindly, neither is this person a scholar, nor is he a student of knowledge. بل من الرعاع الذين يتبعون كل ناعق ويميلون كما تميل الريح. Rather, these people, they are from the common rabble, al-Ra'a, meaning the rabble, the masses, the ignorant crowd. And there are a lot of people like this. Rather, they are from the common masses of ignorant people who follow every loud voice. The loudest voice, or the one with the most followers, or the most likes, or the one who gets to the microphone. These can be very, very dangerous. To put these in front of just anybody can be very, very dangerous. That's why also, going back to those people who are given certain responsibilities to be able to say and to speak to the public after Jumu'ah and so on, and in the Jumu'ah khutbah and at public Islamic events, the Muslims they need to be very careful with who they train up to even have enough confidence to speak on the mic, because that requires there are obstacles that a person needs to overcome. Public speaking, even that, one needs to be very, very aware. Who are we giving this ability to? So these people hear every loud voice, and some people are like that. Some people who not everybody can public speak, right? So some people, they may think that it's something that requires so much bravery and, well, at the beginning, yes, I guess at the beginning, but then, like, if you're used to speaking on a microphone, then you'd know it's really easy. It's just really easy. You're just talking. Okay, but some people, they find a type of awe, a type of prestige and presence with someone speaking on a mic. Could be anybody. So just because they're there in front of an audience, people are like, well, how could they be wrong? Even if they don't verbalize that inside, they're like, oh no, but he spoke at that place, or she spoke at that place. So Shaykh Samir said, and this is taken from a hadith, so they follow the loudest voice. Kul na'iq. A na'aq is the sound that a crow makes. So can you imagine a person? They don't have, let's say, they don't have a persuasion either way when it comes to a certain topic. But then they hear a crow over here, a crow. They hear him do a na'aq. What's the sound of a crow? Crowing? Cawing? Huh? C-A-W. Oh, okay, cawing. They hear the sound here, and so, they go this way because the crow is over there. Then they hear a na'aq over here, and they go over there. So يتبعون كل ناعق. Anybody who's doing the na'qing, if you will, the cawing, they'll go that way because they don't know themselves and they're impressed by this perceived authority that those people have. So they follow every loud voice and they sway with the wind. Just like you see wheat and barley, it sways in the wind. It moves whichever way the wind is blowing, blows that way, then the wind subsides and it comes back up. Then it blows the other way and so on. So they sway. The wind goes that way, oh, I'll go that way. فإذن بل من الرعاع. They are these mass ignorant people. الذين يتبعون كل ناعق ويميلون. They sway. كما تميل الريح. Just as the wind sways this way, then that way, then this way, then that way. Sometimes you're walking in the wind, and if you're going downhill and it's coming from behind you, it pleases you, like Alhamdulillah, I'm being pushed. Suddenly it comes the other way and goes in your mouth, and you think, oh, Subhanallah. The wind, it moves like that. That's how some people move. He said that, isn't it narrated, and it's going to come, that our master Ali radiyallahu anhu said that people are three. People are one of three. Either they are a scholar, or they are learned, or learning even, learning to survive. And the third category is this category. This category of the ignorant people, the, if you will, common rabble. And that's going to come soon. He said that these people لا يستضيئون بنور العلم, that they are not supported, they don't support themselves by illuminating or giving light to their path so they can see where they're going. The light is the knowledge. They don't have that light to see where they're going, to get to safety. They don't have that. لا يستضيئون بنور العلم. This is what Sayyiduna Ali said, and his complete statement will be mentioned later. ولا يأوون إلى ركن شديد. And therefore they do not find any solid pillar to seek safe haven at. Or there's no pillar that they can clutch onto, they can hold onto when there is animosity, adversity, trial and hardship. There's no strong pillar that they can hold onto for support. They've got nothing. The wind blows, they go this way, they go that way. He said, كان الناس فيما مضى يستقبلون العالم إذا جاء بلده بالفرح والزينة. In the past, Shaykh Saamee said, when a scholar would come to the city, the people would welcome him with joy and with decoration. So they would be pleased and joyful as though it was Eid, because a scholar is coming. And they would decorate the city or the town because the scholar is coming. ويجتمعون للسماع منه بالآلاف بل بعشرات الآلاف. And they would gather to hear from him in their thousands. He said, rather in the tens of thousands. Not just thousands, but in tens of thousands. Sometimes, Shaykh Saamee said, sometimes there would be 30,000 and sometimes more. He said, فَلَمَّا وَرَدَ الْفِرْيَابِيُّ مَثَلًا إِلَى بَغْدَادَ استقبل بالطيارات والدبادب. Al-Firyabi was a hafiz of hadith. He was among the Salaf. He was born in the year 207. No, he was born in the year, yes, 207 after Hijrah. And he passed away in 301 after Hijrah. So he was a scholar. He was a scholar of hadith. The likes of al-Shafi'i narrated from him. The likes of al-Shafi'i and many others narrated from him. Shaykh Saamee said, so when al-Firyabi came to Baghdad, al-Shafi'i was among the people that narrated from him. When he passed away in yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what I have here. But let me check it. No, but you're right. Shafi passed away 204, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah, let me look at that again then. Maybe yeah, let me look at that again. Barakallahu feek. Many of the scholars who we know nowadays, they narrated from him. We find al-Firyabi in their chains of narration. So when he traveled to Baghdad, he wasn't from Baghdad. He was met, and Baghdad, it has the Tigris River. So the people, you can imagine, they would have stood on the bank of the river. So they met him with little boats, little canoes that the people decorated. They painted them, they put decorations on them, shiny things on them. And this is how they welcomed him, because he came to their city to give them religious knowledge. And also they had things that produce sounds, a little bit like when you fold the piece of paper in a certain way and then you do that and it makes that sound. A bit like that. They had things that would make sounds like that. So they did that for his welcoming. Shaykh Saamee said, how is it that some people, nations even, today welcome a president? Subhanallah, ajaib. Subhanallah. Did you remember a few months ago when the American president, he went to, was it the UAE? Ajib. Anyway. I spoke to someone who works in the UAE and what they got told. And it's strange, subhanallah. Shaykh Saamee said that, like some people do nowadays, when the leader of a country, he comes so that they can welcome him. As for the scholar in the past, he said that they didn't just make a point of welcoming him on land, but they made sure that when he came during the day that the boats were out and they were decorated and so on, so that everybody could see. ثم أوعد له الناس إلى شارع المنار بباب الكوفة. Then the people, a time was set for them in a place in Baghdad known as Shari' al-Manar, that existed back then, near the Kufa door, the Kufa gate. Al-Kufa is a place, it's a city. Baghdad, like all those cities in the past, they used to have a wall around it. And then there were different exits, places from which you could come in and out of the city. So Babul Kufa was one of these doors, one of these gates. So next to that gate, they had given, they had set a time that this scholar would sit. فحزر من حضر مجلسه لسماع الحديث. And so it was estimated, the amount of people that attended that gathering to listen to the hadiths of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فقيل كانوا نحو 30,000. And it was said that there were about 30,000 people. وكان المستملون 316. And those people who were conveying, there were 316 of them. So there were no microphones. So the scholar sits here, then every 10, 11, or 12 rows back, there's a person who's standing. He hears what the scholar says and he's looking the other way. So he shouts. He repeats what the scholar said. And the scholar, of course, he doesn't, they wouldn't speak like this. They would speak very, very slowly. For example, he would say, سمعت مالكا عن نافع عن فلان أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كذا. And he would pause like this. So the person standing, he would tell the next 10 rows of people, perhaps the next 60 or 70 people. Then a person would be standing there. Like this, there were 316 people conveying, standing all the way back. 316. So that everybody could narrate from the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام from the route of this person. ولما قدم الكجي بغداد أملى برحبة غسان. When a scholar known as al-Kajji came to Baghdad, he dictated whatever he had of hadiths in a place in Baghdad known as Rahbat Ghassan. Rahbatu Ghassan. فكان في مجلسه 7 مستملين يبلغ كل واحد منهم الآخر. In his gathering, there were 7 conveyors, 7 people conveying. Each one of them conveying to the next. وَيَكْتُبُ النَّاسُ عَنْهُ. And the people were writing. قِيَامًا. And they were writing standing up. ثُمَّ مُسِحَتِ الرَّحْبَةِ. A rahba is a flat area that they were in, and it was full. وَحُسِبَ مَنْ حَضَرَ بِمَحْبَرَةٍ. And the people that were writing with ink, a mahbara, so they'd have to dip. There were no biros back then, so they had to dip it in and write like that. فَحُسِبَ مَنْ حَضَرَ. So those people that were that attended with their quills and ink pots, with their mahbara, they were estimated. فَبَلَغَ ذَلِكَ نَيِّفًا وَأَرْبَعِينَ أَلْفَ مَحْبَرَةٍ سِوَى النَّظَّارَةِ. They were about 40-something thousand people. So literally, nayyif means something, like arba'in and then some. نيفا وأربعين ألف محبرة. So 40 something thousand, could have been 42,000, 45,000, 40 something thousand people who were writing. Siwa nadhara, and that's excluding the nadhara. The nadhara were the people who were not writing down, but they were just listening. They were just looking, if you will. كانوا ينظرون. So then Shaykh Saamee said, وَأَمَّا الْيَوْمِ, as for today, فَلَا يَجْتَمِعُ عَلَى الْعَالِمِ مِنَ الطُّلَّابِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. As for today, only very few people gather around a scholar. وَاجْتِمَاعُ الْجَمَاهِيرِ, and as for the majority of people, they gather around إِنَّمَا هُوَ عَلَى الْمُغَنِّينَ وَالرَّقَّاصِينَ وَالْعَابِثِينَ وكذبة القصاصين ودعاة الأحزاب الفاسدة إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. He said instead, today people gather around singers and dancers and those who involve themselves in jest, like comedians and so on, and وَكَذَبَةِ الْقَصَّاصِينَ, and people that tell stories, liars that tell stories, perhaps to make people laugh. وَدُعَاةِ الْأَحْزَابِ, and people who call towards their movement, al-fasida, their corrupt movement. He said, Inna lillah, we belong to Allah, wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and it is to the judgment of Allah that we will be returned, that we will be resurrected. He said, you know what happens nowadays. If a scholar was to come, how many people would come to take from him? As for if there was a singer, thousands would come, thousands would attend. He said, ثم بعض الناس بعد هذا لا يستغرب البلاء الذي ينزل. لا يستغرب, he said. Then after this, he said, ثم بعض الناس بعد هذا لا يستغرب. Some people after this, and he changed and said, well, there should be no surprise then. For when the bala, the trials and tribulations come. And we will stop here today. Walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We have a few more hadiths that Shaykh Saamee mentions. Again, putting the reality into context. And then, and he says why he put this introduction together. This introduction is something that is, of course, in addition to the actual text of the book, but it's very, very beneficial. And like this, Shaykh Saamee added certain matters, like I mentioned in the previous session. And so the book became actually very thick. The book itself is around 190 pages, as opposed to being 20 or 30 pages, which was just the core text. Okay, so we'll continue that, inshaAllah ta'ala. Insha'Allah, we'll continue that. Let's say La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim.